Welcome. This is the Fitchburg Historical Commission meeting for July 28th, 2022. Welcome, everybody. With us today, we have Megan Donahue, Donald Ostrowski, also new Commissioner Andy Lepasti, and Historical Commissioner Sam Blair, who's joining us by phone today. And I believe we have any guests that have joined in. Welcome to our meeting. We are officially starting the meeting, and what we'll do is I'd like to start with our agenda, which, let me see if I can bring that up so you can all take a look at that. And let's see. The wrong one. Here we are. So this is, let me know if you cannot see this on your screen. This is our agenda for today's meeting as posted. First item on the agenda is to welcome Andrew Lepasti as our new commission member. Andy was just approved by City Council this couple of weeks ago. He has taken his training and he's been sworn in by City Clerk. So welcome on board, Andy, and we appreciate you joining us and look forward to working with you on the commission. Number two is we're going to be approving some past minutes. We were not able to meet for a couple meetings because of lack of quorum, and past meetings that were tabled, meeting minutes were tabled. So I'd like to request your review and approval of the meeting minutes for January 27th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
Approve, yes.
Yeah.
The second.
Hi.
Charles
Yeah.
Stornomello has just joined us also. Welcome, Charles. Thanks for joining us also. So
Yeah. I wasn't at some of those meetings, but I approve it.
okay.
He was the first person to motion.
I believe Sam, yes, and Megan, if will take.
Yeah.
I approve it, yes.
And Charles seconded.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Raise your
Aye.
hand if you're present here. And those who do not approve, those who abstain. Any abstentions? So unanimous approval. Third item on the agenda, review and approve minutes for the February 24th, 2021 meeting. Have a motion to approve.
Is this
I move to approve.
2021? I'm sorry, is it
Excuse me.
2021 or 2022?
It's correction. It is 2022. The agenda is incorrect. Let me, for all those reviewing this, so this is approval for February 24th, 2022, and not 21. This is my typo. I'm gonna just changed it on this current agenda, so we apologize for the typo. This will be true for items 4 and 5 on the agenda also. So February meeting minutes, a motion to approve.
A motion that we approve the February 2022 minutes.
Okay, Don, thank you. Second to the motion.
I second.
Sam, thank you. All in favor? Raise your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Was there an abstention? I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. That was unanimous approval. Item number 4 on the agenda, review and approve minutes for the March 31st, 2022 meeting. Again, changing that to this year. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 31st, 2022?
Approve.
Okay.
Charles, you made the motion,
Yeah.
Second the motion.
second the motion.
Second.
Don, I did, okay. All in favor of approving the March minutes of this year?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
Yes.
Sam? Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, abstentions. I think we have unanimous approval for the March minutes. Agenda item number 5, review and approve minutes for the April 28th, 2022, again, correction, meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the April minutes of this year?
I move we approve.
Okay, Sam moved, second to approve the
I'll
motion. Megan has seconded the motion. All in favor of approving the March minutes, please raise your hand. And so speak, Sam, if you.
Yes.
Okay. Opposed? Abstain? We have a unanimous approval of the March minutes. Item number 5 on the agenda, review and approve minutes of the April 28th, 2022. Again, correction to this year's, reference to this year 2022 minutes. As distributed, do I have a motion to approve the April minutes of this year?
I think we just approved those.
We did. Am I done?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not moving the agenda. All right, thank you all. Number 6, review the open meeting law complaint. We've received an open meeting law complaint. I'd like to bring that up just so it's on the record here. So let me, if I can, share screen. And it's not this. Okay, I believe it should show on your screen now. It says open meeting law complaint form.
I think you have to do a stop share first and then go back into share screen.
Okay, it's not showing up. Thank you.
Yep.
Back to meeting. Sharing. All right, is that showing up now?
Going up now. Yes.
Okay, I believe I distributed this to the members also. This is a complaint from Jacqueline Vijay from 170 Belmont Street, Fitchburg, Mass, with her email. And she's an individual. This is to the city body of Fitchburg Historical Commission, to me, the chair, and the date of the alleged violation of July 2nd, 2022. The description of the alleged violation reads, on 6/22, I requested copies of meeting minutes. I did not receive them within 10 days, nor were they posted on the city's website. And the action wanted from the public body is the chair is to disseminate my comments to the public body, herewith doing that. The public body to meet within 14 business days to review the complaint. I believe we're compliant with that. Response to be made to me within 14 business days after our meeting, and minutes to the be provided to me and or posted to the city's website. Number 5, chair to repeat open meeting law training all new members and boards or commissions must take. We, due to not having approved minutes or that were accessible to this, at this point in time, we are being able to post the, I agree that we have not posted all of our meeting minutes as requested, and we accept this complaint. With that said, we will be posting our recently approved minutes, and hopefully she can verify that these are posted. I hope to let her know by email that these have actually been posted on the city's website also. So this is the complaint. Any comments or from the rest of the commissioners?
Is there anything we should know as far as anything, Keith?
I think it as having our meeting minutes posted in a timely manner. I believe I sent an excerpt to the commission members, kind of information about the basically regulations for public bodies and posting meeting minutes on the city's website or whatever other means that the municipality has for posting those for the public to have access to. So, from moving forward, we will try to make every effort we can to make an effort to timely post our approved meeting minutes. So we accept this complaint, and we will understand the issue, and kind of moving forward with that. Any other commission comments? Okay, not hearing any. Let me get back to our meeting agenda. Moving forward on item number 7 on our agenda, Monument Park Local Historic District Property Owners Design Guidelines Notification. We have drafted and presented a letter that was distributed to Monument Park Local Historic District property owners. This was emailed through the assistance of the Community Development Office. This was emailed to all non-city owned properties. And I want to make sure that, and we've gotten some, let's see, kind of some quick comment back from the local historic district, which is, as we all know, is adjacent to the downtown Monument Park. It includes, I think, a total, including Monument Park, includes 11, I believe, listed properties. Several of these, including 2 properties that are the Pittsburgh Public Library, and the Armory building, which is owned by the city on Wallace Avenue. It includes the courthouse, the old Historical Society building on Grove Street, the current courthouse, the old courthouse, includes Christ Church, and includes a Main Street building of what's considered the old YMCA, just east of Christ Church property on the corner of Fruit Street and Main, I believe it is. And it does also include the Fay Club organization, and includes the Lucy's Barn or the Stratton Players building just behind the Fay Club building, and it borders on Boulder Drive. So that's kind of we have notified most of those. 2 kind of pending pieces that the commission should be aware of as our duties as the local historic commission regulating Commission for our one local historic district, the Monument Park Local Historic District. We have gotten comments back from the Fay Club. That's in the process of their ownership organization has created a 501c3 organization to help with the maintenance and upkeep of this grand historic structure. They have contacted me saying that they're hoping to do some continued repair on the building, including masonry work, where water's been getting into a lot of the masonry work, a lot through the parapets and the chimneys and the intricate roof line. And they're hoping to be filing a request for certificate of non-applicability, being that they will be doing in-kind maintenance work, repointing and resetting stones and capstones for many of the walls, and particularly also working on the entrance portico that's on the east side of the building. So this will be kind of one of our first, with our new design guidelines, one of our first certificate applications. And tentatively, it will be a certificate of non-applicability, which does not require a hearing. But I'm working with the planning and development, community development and planning department, who will be receiving the application and making sure that we have documentation with that application, in that the in-kind repairs are going to be done in compliance with proper restoration standards, and we will review those at the time. But so that is an upcoming certificate that we will be reviewing and helping to grant, we hope. The next property that we'll be working with is the Fitchburg Public Library, that has been working on a large renovation and an expansion plan that is dealing with state monies. The library is also in the the State Register of Historic Places District, which is called the Expanded Monument Park Historic District. And their renovations and historic preservation compliance, if you will, as I understand it, will be under two regulatory commissions. One will be the Mass Historical Commission, that will be asked for compliance through the state funding process. And I believe also our commission, because the library is in the local historic district also. And we have met with the library on an informal basis a couple years ago, met with our architect in their preliminary design processes. And the library and has contacted us through their project manager, their hired project manager for the process of seeing the library design and construction to go through. We're hoping, or they're hoping, to be on our August agenda for an informal presentation of their design intent before they make a formal application before our commission, which will be in a public hearing format in the future. So two things coming up, one with the Fay Club and the second with the Fitchburg Public Library. So hopefully we will be prepared for both of these. Again, next month, we will be having on our agenda, I believe, the library for an informal presentation prior to their actual application for certificate of applicability as referenced in our Monument Park Local Historic District guidelines. So I'm just a heads up for all the commissioners to review that document, and also our own commission's rules and regulations document that was also approved in March or April. I think it was April of this year. So we should all be familiar with all of the rules and regulations in that, and making sure that we are providing the proper process and following the rules and regulations. So looking for your help in that also. So kind of homework, if you haven't already, to kind of brush up both the Monument Park Design Guidelines document and our Historic Commission rules and regulations, because there are procedures in that rules and regulations that apply to the local historic district review process also. Any questions in item number 7, Monument Park Local Historic District? So the property owners have been notified. I want to double check with the city. They haven't sent it to all of the city agencies, such as the Parks Department, the maintainer of the Monument Park, the facilities director. I believe the building commissioner has been notified of these documents and has copies of them also. So I will double check with the building commissioner to see if he has any questions on these upcoming pieces also. Any comments or questions on item number 7? Okay. Number 8 on the agenda, update on the proposed demolition delay ordinance draft. I don't think that we've done any work on that since our past meetings. I think we'd like to table that unless there's any comments at this point.
What is the action that's required for the next meeting?
As I recall, we have in our draft, we have modified the delay period to recommending 1 year or 12 months, and the age criteria to being 50 years. And with those modifications, we wanted, our last comments were that we wanted to set up an educational outreach input, gathering input from primarily our local commissioners and others, our actual our city council commissioner or city councilors, our city councilors, so we can individually speak with them, review the ordinance with them, and get their comments and feedback as we're kind of moving forward on this, kind of. So I think if someone would like to volunteer to kind of set up a breakdown of who might contact who, this could be an action process. I've got a little bit much on my plate right now, so if it could be, and I probably should be delegating a bit more things. If someone could come up with an action plan of who would be contacting whom, and kind of a process of how we would actually work this process in our outreach program outreach to get comment and feedback from our city councilors and other representatives also in the community. Yes, Megan, you're muted.
I can do it if you want.
Okay,
I actually
very
have some
good.
time. So,
Okay. So if you have any thoughts or want to reach out to anybody of how this kind of, finding out, listing our city council people and others you might think would be appropriate for an outreach for one-on-one, maybe the tentative designation of if various of our commission members live in a specific city council members district, that might be appropriate outreach and kind of working in that direction. So great. Thank you, Megan.
Is that a draft document that's available to review? Or have you emailed it out, Keith?
Yes. Was that Andy? Was that your comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Let me. I will resend that out to you. Do you have a copy of the Monument Park guidelines also?
I think he sent me that one.
Okay, I will. So the demo delay ordinance draft to Andy. Good, I will do that. Thank you. All right. Any other thoughts on the demolition delay ordinance draft? Okay, moving on to item 9, update on the Stonewall Preservation Ordinance draft.
There's no update from the last, and that's in my court. We better table that for the next meeting.
Okay, what I would like to do, I think one of our guest participants that's online with this and has had comment on the demolition delay, I would like to kind of read her comments that she had sent to me and perhaps you as other commissioners also. I believe I've shared it with you, but let me kind of read it into our meeting records here. So if you give me a minute. Okay, on the 27th of this month, I received an email from Jacqueline Vijay, Pittsburgh resident, and these are comments that she had on the Stonewall ordinance. In May, or slightly earlier, Ms. Vijay had requested, was looking at our agenda items and requesting a copy of our draft ordinance for the Stonewall ordinance. I sent her a copy of our draft ordinance that I had a date on it as a draft as I believe it was May 2022, and which may or may not be the latest copy of what the commission has and Don has had distributed to this. But Ms. Vijay's comments were, your Stonewall ordinance is coercive and punitive. You say you base it on, in part, on the work of Professor Thorson. I read one of his books and then reached out to him. He emailed me that, this is in quotes, I did not insert punitive / coercive measures in my book, ... I think $300 per day fine seems a bit much, end of quote. Continuing in their comments, I think that the people of Fitchburg would concur. I read in the city's website that it is desired that residents of the Historic Commission, that residents, this is in quotes, residents of the Historic District, end quote, be on the commission. How many of your commissioners, if any, reside in this district? Next paragraph. The reason I ask is that your last meeting, it seemed much of the discussion on the Stonewall ordinance you are working on involves a central part of the city. I wish to know how involved residents of that area have been in giving feedback on this proposed ordinance. Next paragraph, if there is little to no representation from the neighborhood on the commission itself, have you surveyed the neighborhood? Question. An example of what I have in mind is what Councillor Cragen and Councillor Cruz knocked on doors in the central part of the city and talked to residents in their case about vaccination. But you could have done the same with your work. Have you done anything similar? If so, are those of you doing this canvassing bilingual in Spanish and English so that you may have maximized the feedback you receive? If not, did you make a Spanish language interpreter? Did you take a Spanish language interpreter with you? What feedback did you receive from neighborhood residents if you did this? If you haven't checked the neighborhood residents in any depth, do you think it's fair to impose your version of the city on them? Maybe you don't like heavy stone, maybe they don't like heavy stone walls. Maybe they would like more modern, airier look. Have you told them if you don't like their stone walls, you're going to fine them $300 a day? Are you aware of the burden this would cost in one of the poor areas of the city? The median income of Fitchburg in 2020 was just $28,219. That doesn't go far in these inflationary times. When I read this punitive language about fines in your proposed ordinance, it shocked me. It appears to me that your commission does not represent the diversity of the city, either socioeconomically or in terms of racial / ethnicity, particularly in the central part of the city. So it's extra important that you receive input from others of diverse backgrounds. End of her comment. So I wanted to make sure that this input was in our comments. And okay, I appreciate the people are concerned with the way the commission is working and giving their feedback. So this is great. The Stone addressing maybe some of the parts of her comments, and I think some of these are maybe not kind of thoroughly the intent of what we were doing with it, but just kind of some general comments. This is not an enacted ordinance or any other particular document. It was a draft document that the commission, as looking toward the preservation of the city's heritage and its historic heritage, that we, as an obligation, this was an item that we are looking at to be able to see if there's a way of providing some protection to stone walls that are particularly regionally in the New England area and all out throughout Massachusetts, of some of the historic character of early European settlers, if you will, creating boundaries, et cetera, with their stone walls and a lot of stone construction. And as these disappear, it becomes part of the heritage that we as a region and a country will be lost forever. And so we're looking at ways of making people aware of, and obviously being able to retain in a reasonable manner, or at least educate people about the importance of our history. Second part of it is that of the ordinance as it was drafted, that we are also considering Fitchburg's particular stone structures, that particularly items that were from the Fitchburg quarry, and due to the geography of the city, there've been lots of bridges over the river, railroad bridges, etc. Many retaining walls that were built, and foundations, if you will, of many buildings that were built with locally quarried and granite from Fitchburg Goldstone Quarry, and perhaps other sources also. Kind of a unique heritage of Fitchburg is, along with its colonial and rural area type of stone wall divisions that are still remaining, are its stone structures, particularly for the geography of our hilly community areas, retaining walls, building foundations, and other stone types of structures, including bridges and trestles and things like that. So this is kind of an intent of what we're doing. And, agreed that we've discussed the fine issue in this ordinance, and also find it distasteful, and whether we are actually doing an ordinance or some other educational process for awareness of these particular heritage items in the city, as our commission is chartered to do. The comment of having a commissioner who lives in the district, I believe this is maybe a little out of context, in that the makeup of the commission, because of the local historic district, which is the only local historic district that Fitchburg has, is a Monument Park local historic district. And to my knowledge, in its 11 buildings, there are no residential units within the district. We do have one commission member who lives one property away from the local historic district, which is Charles. So I believe there is, in that representation, but understanding her comments that obviously this process about stone wall preservation is a citywide piece, and receiving input from across the board of how we can educate the community and hopefully preserve our historic stone wall or stone structures is kind of the intent that we're doing. So getting feedback from the community on this, we agree that this is important. We appreciate your staying up to date with what the commission is doing. We appreciate your comments, and we look forward to kind of working with you in the future and hearing your thoughts of how we can preserve our stone structures or help to make this aware. At one of our meetings in the spring, We had comment from the Historical Society director that was hoping to do some educational work through the Historical Society. Obviously, some awareness of our stone structures that we have. I believe there's also a lot of data about the local quarry, Rollstone Quarry. And there's a lot of historic data on that and where a lot of that quarried material was used and who the local artisans were and masons, if you will, who built a lot of our stone railroad bridges and highway bridges and other types of structures, and obviously stone, granite, dry laid retaining walls that we have in our city. I believe even our probably our city hall foundation is on Rollstone Quarry granite, as many of our cities older buildings are probably have that. So it's a unique piece of Fitchburg that's perhaps different than other communities. So thanks for your input. And I believe that as Don had mentioned, that we perhaps table this for this particular meeting, but having
Well,
Yep.
yeah, I'd just like to add, yeah, I appreciate the feedback, and I will just say that the draft was in the preliminary stages, so there wasn't an opportunity to go out and knock on people's doors and say what they think. We hadn't gotten to that stage yet. Also, the Historical Commission has no power to impose any ordinance at all. They can only recommend to the city council. So the draft itself is based on Stonewall ordinances in other communities in Massachusetts. So the idea is to keep whatever the Historical Commission recommends to the city council in harmony with other Stonewall ordinances in other communities in Massachusetts. So it's not an outlier. It's very much mainstream in terms of the wording and the descriptions. And finally, the one comment about the amount of the fine was actually based on a similar ordinance that is already in effect in Fitchburg in regard to stone walls on main
scenic roads. Yeah.
Scenic roads, exactly. And it was exactly that. But what we can do, and I did in the latest draft I think I sent you, is to leave, to be determined later. We can take out the $300, because that, again, it was an attempt to keep our draft in harmony with other similar ordinances and drafts of Stonewall ordinances in Fitchburg and other Stonewall ordinances in other communities, since Fitchburg doesn't have a Stonewall ordinance per se. So it again emphasized our commission is purely advisory. We have no power to impose anything. We have no power to fine anybody. And we do welcome the feedback on these preliminary stages of this draft.
Maybe a suggested and kind of following the Historical Commission or Historical Society's mention of perhaps starting publishing some research information that they have about from the Historical Society about the history of stone walls in our area and some of the unique qualities of those. That, you know, we've been kind of talking about this for over a year now, and it's obviously something we're not enacting and we're recommending to the city council at this point. But part of it is an education program. First of, you know, kind of highlighting some of this information. So part of the action plan would be working closely with the Historical Society to perhaps help publish some information about some of the unique qualities of Fitchburg's landscape, if you will, as far as stone walls, if you will, and going to continue to work on this in a, you know, what are the best actions that we can propose, be it through education, through ordinances, or just public awareness of some of the treasures that we have, some of the heritage that our communities have. And as you know, part of what our commission's responsibilities are, that we're to help maintain the heritage of our city and be as a part of the city government, be a spokesperson for maintaining the heritage that we do have. So as part of our charter, or our responsibility as a historical commission, is to work best we can to maintain Fitchburg's heritage. So here we go. Is this something that, Don, could you or would you be interested in reaching out to Susan Navarro of the Historical Society and seeing if there's just maybe report back some coordination that we could do with them on a
Great idea. Yeah, I'll do that.
through their newsletter and their website, et cetera, publications and things. And, you know, maybe there's some things that we can add to our website also that could be educational and informative as people are looking for information about Historical Commission and some of the concerns that we have. These educational documents could be available there also.
Maybe Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that, I know I've heard Susan mention, you know, a stone wall, not necessarily project, but I guess doing research on some of the more prominent granite walls in the city. So I was thinking I could bring that up with her. I'm there volunteering every Monday,
Okay,
so
sounds good.
I could try asking her for more info.
Terrific. Thank you, Andy. That's great. Since you're actually working with Susan on a weekly basis, that would be good also. So good. Maybe if you could get back to the commission and kind of your thoughts and findings, and maybe you and Don working together on how kind of progress of how we might kind of move forward with our overall goal of how do we preserve our historic stone structures that we have in the city as much as possible.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to move on to item 10, update on Simon Saw and Steel Intervale Road, sponsoring historic documentation of this architectural / industrial design. Our Ellen DiGeronimo, who is absent today's meeting, is working on that. So I would like to table that till the following meeting. And I don't believe we have any specific updates on that, but it's a project that we might see through. Item number 11, update on historic districts information brochure, map information guide, signage, web posting, and Fitchburg State University faculty-led student project coordination ongoing fall, spring of this past academic year. Both Don and Ellen have kind of most recently have seen the efforts of the students that have been working on the project. It's still a piecing process. The brochure is getting to, I would say, about 90% complete. And the proposed street signage for 6 historic districts in our downtown area is in probably a 90% design mode also. It's some very handsome graphics that we've coming up through our partnership with Fitchburg State and their graphics design students and communication media department, both food students and faculty. We are hopefully being able to show some of the more final draft documents in the next month or so on this, so that we can then kind of move forward. This includes 4 National Register districts that are in the downtown area and 2 pending National Register districts, those being the Upper Common District and the Academy Street District, so that a total of 6 that we're hoping to have a free to the public brochure publicized with maps and brief descriptions of each of the districts, and have some street signage for both automobile and pedestrian signage that would have QR code. You holding your phone up to it, you would be able to link then to more detailed information about the districts and maps of their outlines or proposed outlines. So we think this is a great project. It's moving along. It's taking a little bit slower, but we're hoping to have that out to perhaps by next month. Number 12, walls, building, entry stones, reuse, temporarily stored in redevelopment authority space on Boulder Drive. I think that's about half of the stones that are in there that came from the Wallace Sentinel building that was demolished in 1980s, I believe. And some of the 2-story entrance to this H.M. Francis design building have been dismantled and stored, and part of them are stored. So we're looking for perhaps uses in the city where some of these ornately carved, primarily brownstone carved stones could come out of storage and be used in a decorative informational types of way that the city can use. So any thoughts on this? I know, Megan, you've probably seen these.
Yeah, so I have an update about the building. We did sign a PNS for that a couple weeks ago. That doesn't mean it's a done deal though, but it gets the ball moving on the buyer's side. So they have a due diligence period of 90 days. If they like what they see after their due diligence, they will actually purchase the building outright. But during this period, they could backtrack and not buy it at all. So I just want to put that out there. I was thinking for the stones, what about along the rail trail as benches or something? Because some of them are bench size. I was thinking they would would make good seats somewhere,
Yep.
or someplace has good seats.
Yeah, I believe a while back, I sent out a copy of three students did a project of kind of researching the stones, actually inventoried them. Those that are in the redevelopment authority, the old GE plant, plus at least a third again, as many that were in an orchard that is now a solar farm out off of Fisher Road, I believe. And I'm not sure what's the status of those particular artifacts are at this time, if they were plowed under or if they're, I didn't realize it became a solar farm, so it's kind of after the fact. So any, hopefully you received the document that showed a lot of pictures of the various stones and some photographs of the Wallace building and kind of a reconstruction of the two-story entry piece. Andy, I can send a copy of that to you. Anybody else that didn't get a copy would like to receive a copy of that?
You can put me on the list.
Okay,
I don't think I have a copy.
okay, stones to Sam, to Andy. Anybody else need a copy of that document? And perhaps we can again carry this on to future meetings and hopefully not taking too long, because we'd like to find at least new storage space for them or a designation. So rail trail, perhaps on the Fitchburg end or various portions of that, being able to secure them so they don't walk off by somebody taking them, I guess, but being able to be publicly viewed and having some information of about where they came from.
Right.
They
Keith, what
certainly,
exactly was
so long as they're not a
Wallace building?
safety. The Wallace building was it was right next to the Faith United Church, just east of that, where the current or the old Sentinel Enterprise, more modernistic 1980s building is still standing there. It was a 4 or 5 story, primarily brownstone fronted building that the Sentinel Enterprise had its newspaper business in, the printing presses,
Okay.
et cetera, in.
Mhm.
It was, the building was owned by Rodney Wallace, who was also a patron of the Faith United Church. And it was actually, it was built very close to the time of the newer section of the Faith United Church was built. Rodney was the primary, probably funder for the building of the new church facility, and he was also the owner of the Wallace building, and may have been involved with the Sentinel Enterprise as a board member or something on the newspaper also.
Okay, I found a
I
picture on
believe
the
he-
internet.
Yeah. And there was a 2-story, it had storefront, right up to the sidewalk level on the ground
Mhm.
level. The main entrance of the building was a little bit off center. And there were dentists, H.M. Francis, I believe, had his office on some of the upper floors. There were lawyers and dance studios and all kinds of things, along with the Sentinel editorial staff, reporters, and their printing operation probably in the back portions of the building. As I recall, as the Sentinel Enterprise went into larger printing machines and operations, they wouldn't fit in the older building. They tore down the building in the 1980s or 70s, I believe, and built a new facility that would hold the larger printing equipment in the back portions of it, and had their offices in the front portions of it. You can still see that in the newer replacement building. Our commission member, Ellen DiGeronimo, at the time was upset, if you will, with no act of trying to preserve the building. And she was able to convince the constructor or the demolition contractor to salvage the entrance stones and have them taken apart piece by piece and stored for Ellen. And they ended up being stored partly, some of them at the old historical society outside in the front yard, and then in the GE building and a vacant portion of the GE building at the time before it became Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority property. And some of them ended up in the orchard off of Fisher Road. I believe it is Fisher Road out in.
It is, yes.
And she approached the university and ended up talking to me about having architecture students. Actually, we had an architecture student and a teacher of history and a history student, 3 students working on an independent project to find out information about the stones, create a research ideas of what other communities have done with artifacts from, like Roman ruins or even more contemporary artifacts of cities, and being able to display portions of that from large types of stones. So that's what's in the student report, along with their inventory of each of the stones. They measured them, categorized them, and photographed a lot of them. I don't know if we have all the database yet. The architecture student actually took those, created 3D models of each stone, and assembled them in a 3D model showing the reconstruction of the 2-story entranceway without the doors and windows and things in it. But that's what's in the brochure. And Ellen has been trying to find homes for these stones, and they are kind of public domain, if you will. And we're just, as part of our commission, if and Ellen is asking for our help, as is Megan, before the stones become artifacts of whoever leases or buys the building, becomes their property, and they just get dumpstered, if you will, or buried somewhere.
If anyone wants to come and see them in my building, I'd be happy to show you. It's a really cool building too, if you ever want to walk through it. So I'm here
Yes.
every day.
That end of the GE plant, and it was, I can't remember, what was the name of the plant before it was GE? It was the machine works of some sort.
Cut machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is it's a beautiful basilica. Basilica from Byzantine times or Roman times was a 3-bayed, a high central bay with clerestory windows and 2 lower bays, with sloped roofs and windows in this upper section, built for manufacturing. It had huge, big crane. It still has huge, big crane rails that traverse, I think, all 3 bays, and a huge one in the middle bay, or multiple cranes in there that were lifting large castings and turbines and whatever else in a shoe making, but very large scale manufacturing. It's a cathedral in itself in there, in steel construction of the early 20th century, I would say, and magnificent, huge space that would be, great for any museum or rock concert, and a very difficult place to heat and air condition, if you will. But the guts and framework and take advantage of Megan's offer if you haven't seen the insides of it. It is a magnificent structure. And if any of you are interested and want to contact Megan, and maybe she can set up a time where multiple people could go take a look at it. And she can by email contacting members.
That'd be great.
Yep, and any of the public listening, please contact the commission also, and we'd be happy to share with this building, and also what the wall stones look like.
Yes, or contact the Pittsburgh Redevelopment Authority. I'm here every day, so.
And I can send the student study on it to anybody. It's certainly open information also. Okay. Anything else on the Wallace Building? Number 13, historic marker. We have new sign maker update. This is taking a while. I believe I recently sent out, like a few minutes before the meeting starting, quotes from the various sign makers. I don't know if any of you received that yet, or maybe I didn't push send on it. It's kind of late. I will send that out to everybody that lists the New Jersey hand painted sign maker that has kind of acquired Old Colony Artisans contact information, kind of granted perhaps from his daughter. And their quote came in at $170 some per hand painted sign, plus a delivery fee of $12 to $15. So this is in New Jersey, but they are hand painted artisan signs. We have a second quote from a local sign painter, Ross Arthur, for roughly $157.25, I believe, per sign. These would be on, again, wood backgrounds with a sign painter lacquer. It is not hand painted. It is done by probably a computer generated screen print. Paraphrasing is. And local residents, once they are made, they would just stop by Ross Arthur on Airport Road and pick them up, I believe. So there'd be no delivery charge on that. And a third quote of the hand painted sign maker in Ashburnham. That is, you can bring this up quickly. Maybe. Over $200 for. These are definitely hand painted. It would be local. It was $225, I believe. Now I'll send out the information. So there's a price range from 157. You pick it up. Ross Arthur screen painted. The New Jersey firm, 170 some dollars plus a delivery fee that would take it up to about 190 something per sign. And the Ashburnham hand painted sign maker of $125. And I'm not quite sure how, if she would deliver them to the individuals or if it they would have to be mailed or UPS'd out from there. So I don't have that delivery piece. I will distribute my table of those prices. And Charles, you had a question?
Yeah, did you say what the original company we had, how much that was? I missed what you said.
The Old Colony Artisans delivered the hand painted signs for $62.
Say that again, you cut out.
For $62 delivered. I believe
The only issue with them was that they would only take a check from us, correct?
no, the original artisans, which we were getting an extraordinary deal. And I think this was kind of a retirement project for Bob Leonard before he passed away. Didn't want to up his prices and he stuck with his prices, but I'm sure he was not making any money on these.
And what's the
When
company
he
that
passed
took?
away.
Yeah.
So the company that has access to his clients and perhaps was granted access to the contacts is handpaintedsigns.com. They are a New Jersey firm, and I will send you their quote information to all the commission members. And their quote was 100 and this is
How much?
approximately 176 plus a delivery charge of
Yeah.
$12 to $15.
Okay.
Um,
Were they the ones that didn't want to take a check from us?
they're the ones that wanted, they wanted checks from us, the city
what I meant.
agency. And didn't want personal checks to be coming in.
Right.
But I could talk with them more in detail about how that might be arranged. Since we don't have, we would prefer not to be the accounting and money pass through. That's really not our idea, but kind of facilitate it and to see if he would accept local checks, or if he has a PayPal type of thing or something that he could, people could certainly use a credit card or something like that also in our modern days. So, and I think a PayPal account might be pretty safe way of doing that. And I could check to see if they're capable of doing that. So this is something that we should be moving on. It's just been a while getting quotes from everybody. So we have 2 hand painted, and we have 1 screen painted from Was Arthur, a local sign painter.
Keith, do you have did you take any photos or have any examples of what they look like from each of these places? How different would they be from what we had before?
They would be identical to what we have. We've sent them the artwork and saying this is the size, the graphics that we're using. So that would be identical, except the actual brush stroke, if you will, would be individual to the 2 hand painted and versus the screen painted. But they would all be using a serif font matching what we have as our example that shows up on our city website.
And then what about Megan's idea of Monty Tech? Was that something that probably wasn't a good idea?
Yes, I checked with Monty Tech. Actually went through their principal and talked with the faculty people who would actually be doing it. Hand painting was definitely out. That it's not something that they have kind of control of over a long kind of period of time of having student artisans that would be able to do that way. Although they do have machine graphics, they were reluctant to do, pretty much they were doing some signs for other local communities in their region, and they were doing engraved signs on plastic types of material, like laminated plastic that might have a white surface with a black inside core to it. So they would, through CNC computer generated graphics, they would put into the machine would automatically kind of carve out, like we see in lots of carved type of signs. The control of enamel paints and things like that were really kind of pushing it in their educational program at this point. So I didn't think that would work for kind of the wood signs that we have, but they were very cooperative and they were very interested in working with us if it's something that they could actually work with the students on. It was, but they were kind of limited to the materials they were using with their current processes and the students they were working with.
Well, I appreciate that you followed up with them. And Megan, if you can hear me, that was a good idea. So anyway, so Keith, are you leaning on one of these choices more than another, or not yet?
I would like kind of the commission's input on it. It's nice to keep the cost down. I think if it's more than double the cost that we had advertised before, but I think it's, for under $200, getting a hand painted sign is still a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I agree.
And those who want it, I think would perhaps come up with versus the $62 that was kind of a giveaway. We still only have about 30 or 40 signs that have been actually done. So we haven't pushed it a lot. It is on our website, but the website isn't visited very often, I'm sure.
Keith,
you know,
does that mean that whoever already paid for the $62 sign but didn't get it will have to pay the difference for the new sign maker?
Unless we get the money back, I have contacted the I think single error of Bob Leonard. And I have not been able to get any response back from email requests. I don't know if it's a registered letter or even a printed out letter to the error asking for refunds. It would certainly have access to, I would think, to Bob's checking account where he deposited these. I believe I sent maybe 4 emails asking for refunds for the 2 customers that haven't received their money back, because Bob received the check in early December and deposited them. He died on the 23rd of December, and the plaques were not made for. There were 3 plaques, 2 for one party and 1 for another party. So as of yet, those reimbursements have not come back yet. So I doubt if the other sign painter would honor that, although it could be a question for the New Jersey firm, I suppose. And I actually sent, I believe the one single one, we'd ask for cease and desist and don't do the sign. So and the other 2,
as far as we know, the people who paid but didn't get their signs will have to pay the full amount for the new signs.
I would assume so, unless our commission that has no money would like to make up the difference.
Okay.
I feel bad for those people. They got gypped. I mean, it's nobody's fault. But
Yeah, I will. This coming month, I will try to reach out again, this time in mailed letter form, my stamp, and see if perhaps, or maybe community development could put it on their letterhead. Maybe I could do a letterhead sent to the air, and see if we can get any movement that way.
do you think maybe that the city would have funds that they could pay those people back their money, or no?
Good question. It sounds like a legal
Keith, you could speak to the town lawyer.
Yes, we could. The
Maybe a
city,
letter from him would speed things up.
that's true. The city solicitor could perhaps help us with this. Would you like me to contact the solicitor?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea to ask advice. I think that's a good fall within the city solicitors.
Okay, I could send an email out on that to him. I'll copy the rest of you on it and see what we get from it.
Keith, do you want us to vote on who to be the sign maker, or did you want more? Did you need to do more research, or what was the deal on that?
It's a, if let me leave it up to you. I gave you kind of a verbal description. If you want, I can send out I made up a table. I was kind of working on it and got involved with other stuff and did not send it out to the commission, the rest of you.
I mean, because
If
you're the
you
one
want
who
to see them all together.
I mean, you're the one who
I'd
did
like
you're the one who did the research. I feel like maybe you're in a better position to make the decision, but At the same time, I feel like I'd prefer to have a hand painted sign, even if it costs a little bit more. But I don't know how much better it is than the Was Arthur one, you know?
Any other comments, like Charles?
I would like to see the three and compare them maybe to the old sign and see if they're well, you said that they're identical, but I'd like to see them. Do you have samples?
I will forward the email that I received from the New Jersey hand painted sign. And I will send you both the proposal from Was Arthur and the proposal from the Ashburnham design company. So everybody has information on it. And if we want to move that, if you all want to vote during next week, when you receive it, and I can make the final count on that and make it happen, or we can make it a decision at next meeting. We don't have any applications in process, so I would just prefer that we actually vote on it at next meeting or a future meeting after you've all received the full kind of written comments from each of the people that have quoted on it. Then I would like to, as a final gesture, I'd like to hand off to another commissioner the hand painted sign processing and so forth. Just that I'm getting way behind in my correspondence to everybody, and I should be delegating kind of more things out to the rest of you, if you will. I'm kind of not finishing anything up on some of these things I say I'm going to be doing, and it's taking a decent amount of time. So anyhow, let me follow up and send out information on it. My proposal is that we consider it and consider a vote at next meeting.
Good idea.
You all have the same information and not just my, thanks, Charles, for your possible confidence in my idea, but I'd rather not make a decision. So,
Okay.
great. Any other thoughts on the mail? Let's see. Okay, new business. New business, we just received an email today from the engineering company that is revising the cell tower transmitter receivers that are on the duck mill chimney. It's the duck mill chimney off of Bemis Road, and the commission has actually looked at these proposals in the past, and it's required by the kind of utilities review process through the state review board that any buildings that are on the National Register, and the duck mill is on the National Register of Historic Places, anytime there are modifications being made to that, comments are asked for comments from the local historical commission, and probably Mass Historical, among other. We get to comment on the process, and I emailed just before the meeting a copy of this correspondence to all of you that has a download of the drawing showing the modifications. A few years back, we did comment on I think it was Verizon installation from this or another engineering company that asked for comments. And we had, I think this was with the initial installation, that we had sent back a letter mentioning that any of the attachments to this historic brick chimney It's a square chimney, quite tall, 60 some feet high, I believe, or more. That the attachments would be reversible. So if they are bolting into the brick masonry, that they try to minimize any damage, that they perhaps do it in mortar joints and not in the actual bricks themselves, and that there be a clause in the approval that if and when the lease ends on this particular utility company using this particular equipment, that it be removed as part of their contract, and that the brickwork would be restored to using historical restoration standards such as the preservation briefs by the National Park Service for replacing or mortar joints, any damage that these big metal clamps going around the chimney would cause any damage. They're big metal clamps that kind of skirt around the chimney, and I'm sure there are masonry fasteners that are going into the brickwork that are going to cause some type of damage. So if with your approval, I will draft a letter back to them and send it back, requoting the damaged piece. Their modifications do look like they do not involve any new clamping into the masonry. It looks like they're just adding on to the receivers, stuff that's already clamped, they're adding on to those particular things, but are adding on to the loading and wind loading, if you will, of this stuff on a chimney. So I propose that with your vote, I would send out a rehash of the letter that we sent out to them before. So if I have a motion for that, I would accept, or any discussion before that.
I second it.
Yes, Megan?
I was gonna motion, but Charles,
Yeah,
Okay, so Megan moved and Charles seconded. How's that?
that sounds good.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Yeah,
All in favor?
I'm in favor.
In
Hands up.
favor?
All right, thanks, Sam. All right, I will do that and I will copy the commission members on that. And our next meeting is August 25th, 2022. City Hall, room 201A, same room that some of you are in, and also Zoom hybrid. And this, a main piece that we should be preparing for is the library informal presentation of their large renovation design. And make sure that you read through both our rules and regulations on that we enacted. Andy, do you have a copy of the rules and regs? I think.
I think so, yes.
Yep. Okay. If anybody needs a new copy of that, I can send it. And also the Monument Park local historic design guidelines that we recently established that they're going to be following. So I want us all to be aware of the processes and help each other out, making sure we're making the right comments and decisions. And also, I would suggest that each of you go on the state's MACRIS list and review both the listing for the Fitchburg Youth Library that was designed in, I believe, 1956 plus or minus by Carl Koch architect. And then later the 1960s main library, front section and auditorium, I believe, and maybe some of their courtyard area things that were also designed by Carl Koch and funded by the Wallace family also. These would fall under our demolition 50-year guidelines. I I feel personally that Carl Koch was a relatively renowned architect from the Boston area that has won the initial 1950s youth library that was built behind the original Wallace 1890s building, perhaps, was done in a international style, if you will, period. And it's one of the few international style design buildings left in Fitchburg. So I think there is some importance to this. And there's, if you haven't visited the building recently, I would recommend you do it in both the youth library, that was the first part of the two complex buildings built, and then the main library, and look at the structure, look at the design of each of these, each representing a bit of a different period of contemporary architecture, and be familiar with it. And it is kind of our commission's responsibility to, as part of the district, as it was included in the original local historic district, that we be knowledgeable, ask the right questions, and be able to deliberate on the appropriateness of understanding that the library's expansion is a very important thing for the city, in being able to provide the library facilities that the city needs, and the challenge that the architectural firm and the library staff and all of the people working on the design have in trying to kind of juggle making the program work, meeting library standards that the state has set up and the country has set up. And, you know, the state is helping to fund a large portion of this. The cost, and the city will be obviously paying a large portion of the cost of any library renovation that will happen in the future. But this is an opportunity for us to do our duty as the historical commission for the local historic district, to make appropriate comment and act in the preservation the way that we should, and being able to, as it actually gets into a public hearing format in the future, when there's a formal application before our local historic commission to review it, that we are acting following our guidelines and making the proper decisions as we go forward. So this is a jumping into the fire with us, if we will, and kind of understanding our responsibility. So I hope you all take it seriously, review the context of it, and if I have some other documents on the history of the libraries that I can share with you, the structural system for the bigger portion of the main portion of the library is obviously quite unique. They're like square lily pads on individual columns that are supported. So kind of, this is very unique. There's one other Carl Koch library in the North End that's much smaller than this, that has a similar type of structural system that was built just before or after this building was built. And there was a precedence of a hotel or motel in somewhere in Florida that used this similar type of structural system. Instead of having a column with a beam, this is a column that supports a four-sided umbrella, if you will, on top of it, that they're all interconnected beside each other, versus kind of conventional construction. This is all done with poured in place reinforced concrete. And it, you know, if you have a chance to visit the library before our next meeting, just take a walk through with the building in mind this time, and go out into the courtyard and go into the auditorium and things like that if you can too. So if you want to do that jointly and go together on it somehow, or, I don't believe I'll be around to do that, but that's something you could organize, or we could organize too. And maybe library staff could give you a tour.
Keith, I have a question.
Yes, Charles.
Are you referring to us reviewing some documents that you sent out in an email? Or like, were there proposals on the design? I missed the beginning of the meeting. I don't know what you're referring to.
For the library,
Yeah,
no. The architect did meet with us informally in 2017, and some of us were around then.
yeah, I remember that meeting.
Yeah, and several of you were not. They hope to just get some general ideas on where we're leaning, if you will, before they make their formal application, but they are hoping to move very forward, I believe, quickly on this stage of their design enhancement in their library funding process that they're in.
Do we have option?
Yes.
Do we have an opportunity to see the plans? I remember Sharon Bernard showed us some ideas back when she met with us years ago of what they were proposing then. I'm sure things have changed since then.
Yeah, I suspect we won't have anything beforehand, but at the informal meeting, they're going to make their visual presentation to us without asking for any formal comment from us, but just general information of our thoughts in an informal basis. Not a full vote on it, and this isn't a formal application for our comment, but they're going to make that presentation, and we can ask at that time at our August meeting to have them send PDF copies of this, so we can take a look at it in a little bit more detail of where they are, and then we can, I don't know if we can, we can decide whether we want to make a public comment at August meeting, or if we want to kind of push that off for our review, because it'll be kind of off the cuff at this particular meeting, although we don't want to delay them in their process also. This is going to be, I believe the new library director will be present. They have a owner's project representative who I believe their firm was a representative on the City Hall project. The owner's project representative is a representative paid for by the city to help the city agency, in this case, the library, manage this immense process of having the architectural design formulated, making sure the cost estimates are in, the selection of contractors, and the kind of, as the owner's representative, overseeing the architect and the constructor as the actual process kind of goes through. So the OPR will be there in person and helping to probably direct this presentation, or will have a lot of questions for us. And their purpose is to make sure that, one, they're getting their permits as required, and that the architect is doing their job, the owner is doing their job, and this, obviously, city agencies like us are being woven into the process also. So this is kind of a preamble to what will be happening probably with the, Tom Swirowski has said that the old courthouse building at the end of Monument Park, the north end of that, is actually will be going out for new ownership proposals, and I'm not sure exactly how that's happening. I don't know if Megan, you have an update on that, but it sounds like DCAM, the state agency, is going to be seeking quotes Tom says there's going to be preservation restrictions in there, asking for quotations for developers to buy the property and redo it. I'm hoping to, this month, I hope to check in with Mass Historical Commission to see exactly how we fit with DCAM's preservation restrictions. Does the local historical commission, as I would think we do, have a permit, application permit process in any design pieces, and this should be in the RFP information also. And seeing exactly how we coordinate on both of these projects, the library and the old courthouse, how we coordinate with Mass Historical that's actually going to have comments on the library and have comments on the design for the reuse of the courthouse building. So being our first shot at this, I'm going to check with Mass Historical to be sure that we understand our responsibilities, what the state's responsibilities are for each of these two projects, and they might be different. One dealing with library funding, the other dealing with capital planning assets that the state owns, which I believe the state owns the courthouse now. But they're hoping to get rid of it off of their asset list and put it into development. And since it is in National Register District and in our local historic district, it will have oversight on it. Just like the library is in both the local historic district and the Massachusetts Historic Places District. The library is not on the National Register, but it's on the State Register of Historic Places. So there's a lot, we're learning a lot of what our processes are. And I think it's going to be exciting and important stuff that we're doing here. So as I get information on this stuff, I hope to email it out to all of you as I find out information prior to our meeting. So any other business? Well, thank you all for sticking through this and your participation and precipitation. Welcome again, Andy. We thanks for coming and all of your due diligence in getting to this position. We welcome you on board. There's a lot to be done, and we'll really appreciate your input. And any questions you have, feel free to reach out and comment during the meetings and off meeting time. If you have questions on things, we're all here to help each other.
Okay, thanks, Keith.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion, we adjourn.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
Aye.
We'll see you all, if not before, August meeting.